Okay, so here's the board, looking rather nice and clean now. Basically, this has just been in a sink with some just hand wash, soapy stuff, soft paintbrush, and just giving it a good clean. Then it's been thoroughly rinsed under the cold water, and then finally it's been left to dry for several hours with a fan just blowing over it. And now it seems to be dry and we're ready to go a little bit further. Okay, so what we're going to do is now basically is just have a quick look at this under a microscope just to see anything obvious, anything we might want to look for, and then we're going to try it. If we can't see any reason not to, it's going in the PC. So I'm going to have to move this camera, sorry, but as I say, I have a very basic setup here at the moment and need to change this. So we now have the microscope. I hope that's coming out clear enough. Say I'm just doing this on my mobile phone at the moment, but if people are interested in this channel, I'll certainly get some proper equipment and we can do this much more professionally. Okay, so let's have a quick look at this board. All I'm going to do is have a quick glance around. What I'm looking for here is obvious signs that somebody's been messing with this, blobs of solder, anything like that. What you're going to find is, I mean, for example here, this U222. I mean, there's no component here, but these pads look like they've never been soldered. I think this is probably just an optional component, maybe for a different version of the board, not necessary. So I'll just have a quick look around. Nothing obvious so far. So you see this chip here. This will be a controller for this coil for whichever voltage rail is generated by this on these capacitors. And there we see another one there, different type, one here. Yeah, look, this is interesting. We have one here. This what is this part number? V11655. We have another one. This is a different type. Okay, yeah, there's one here, and so on. I was just interested to see whether a lot of these, because these first 4 power rails are all connected together, this one and so on. I was just interested to see if they have the same driver component. Because if you remember, all these 5 coils, I said were working like a Gatling gun. Yeah, that's the same as that one. This is a different one. That's the same as the first 2. Yeah, there's 4 the same there. So maybe they're all generating the same voltage rail. Okay, so after a little bit of a sidetrack, I'm just looking around here, and everything looks okay. You know, big blobs of solder, nothing nasty that I can see. This is your GPU chip, the big one there. Just look around here. So I'm not looking at anything particular. I'm just having a look to see if there's anything being going on untoward. Yeah, this all looks sort of original. Like nobody's been messing with it. That thing says 27, by the way. That's an oscillator crystal. Oh, that's interesting. I don't know. I don't know whether somebody's removed something here, or whether it's just again an optional component. What's it say here? Thermal alert. I mean, this soldering here, this looks very clean. I would say if somebody's removed the component from here, they're a very good technician to leave it as good as that. So it's probably just something optional. But we'll keep it in mind that something appears to be missing. So we were talking about these connectors up here. Obviously a lot of corrosion on here. What's it like the other side? If we can just alter the focus a little bit. Yeah. I mean, you can see these are corroded, but it doesn't particularly look, well, maybe here. like there's corrosion in between. I was just wondering, yeah, possibly here, this gunk in between is possibly causing a short circuit. I mean, that's probably a good reason for a board not to work if there's shorts here. So that's something we need to clean up. And finally, just look around here, and yeah, that looks okay. These all look okay. Flick it over. Nice and clean. There's obviously some sort of impact damage here, but I don't think that's going to cause a problem. Just refocus that a little bit. I don't particularly see anything badly wrong with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm literally going to plug this in now and try it, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so I said I was going to plug this in and see what happens, but obviously before we do that, we need to clean the crap off here. Probably the easiest thing to use for that is isopropyl alcohol. So a bit of isopropyl. I just a little bit in the lid, and then like a stiff paintbrush type brush. Let me see if I can find. Yeah. This is the one that I normally use for this sort of cleaning up. This is the one I used when I washed the graphics card in the sink. So let's just get rid of this crap. Yeah, it's proving quite difficult to remove that. Okay, that's not coming off easily. Another trick here, and this is a very good way to clean sort of PCI card contacts and such like, is to use a pencil with a rubber eraser on the end of it. So if I just dig around in my stuff here, I do have one. Yeah. Just a pencil, obviously never actually used as a pencil, but it has, this is the type of eraser I think which erases ink as well as pencil. So we're going to use this and we're going to clean off these contacts. Okay, let's see what we have. They're not perfectly clean, but they're much better than they were. I mean, that should be good enough. So now, the moment of truth. Let's just plug this thing in and see what it does. So this is basically, you can see, it's off a scrap computer case. This is socket 7 motherboard, their cheapest chips. Hard drive has Windows 10, but for now I'm just going to disconnect that. I don't need the hard drive. Quite nice, this board, because it also has IDE, which is useful if you want to look at old hard drives and such like. I mean, surprising how much old retro computer equipment is worth these days. So that's useful to have. And let me just adjust the camera a little bit. Let's see if that's any better. Okay. So this is what I'm going to be using to test this with. The damn thing's got tied around the microscope. Okay, so first we're just going to, this is just a spare card I use. We need a power supply, ATX power supply. Now I noticed this graphics card has a 8-way and a 6-way power adapter cable, the connectors, and my power supply actually only has an 8-way that connects to the motherboard. It's a different wiring. It won't actually connect to the graphics card, and I have 2 6-ways. So what I'm going to do with this, I had a quick look on Google, and basically it says that with a 6-way and an 8-way, you can usually get away with putting 2 6-ways. That's what I have. I can always get an adapter, or even look up how they wired and effectively wire something myself. But it's not going to do any harm. So I'm going to connect the 2 6-ways to here and see if it will actually power up or do anything. If it doesn't, okay, it's something we think, okay, we need to get an adapter, maybe. But anyway, let's plug it in and let's see what it does. Another problem you have with working on graphics cards like this is that it's impossible to work on the board with a heatsink on the GPU. And you don't really want to be running this without a heatsink on the GPU. So what I would normally do is connect it up, hold a heatsink against this, which I'm going to do in a minute myself physically, just to give it some amount of cooling, and just see whether this will actually boot or not. The easiest way to see if it's going to boot is to use a post analyzer card. One of these. You can get these off eBay, AliExpress, various places for like €5. I mean, these are dirt cheap. And this is something you should really have in your box of tricks. These are very useful. You'll sometimes see fault codes. These will not necessarily tell you what the fault is, down to it's this component or that component, but what it will do is at least show you if nothing's happening or something's happening, to give you some idea. They're very, very useful for working on motherboards. This one's just a PCI one. I also have a PCI and ISO one. This one, this has ISO and PCI. I did have a PCI Express one, which is I didn't like it much. I've now not got that one anymore, but I am going to buy myself another one. I'll try again. But anyway, PCI test card in there. Next thing to do, we have power on the motherboard. We have power here. We're going to put some power on the graphics card. As I said, I only have the 6-way connectors. So let's just move the power supply to here, make it a little bit more easy to connect the power. We have one in here. We have the other one, which will go into the first 6 connectors. Maybe will work, maybe won't, but we can cross that bridge if we need to. And now I'm going to put something against this this GPU. Just bear with me one moment. Okay, this is just an old heatsink off a processor, I guess, 1151 or 1150 socket, something like this. Let me see. No, that's not going to work. These are going to actually hit the board. I need to just find something else that we can use. Let me see what we have. Okay, this is just a small heatsink. It's not very big, but it will certainly help to have a little bit of cooling. If I feel this thing get very hot very quickly, I'm going to switch the power off very rapidly. So of course, talking about power, now we need some power. Okay, so connected to the power. I've switched the power off at the moment, but it's connected to the power. And we're going to need some way to start the motherboard. This is quite handy with this one. I have a little little switch wired up here. I don't know if you can see that. Well, basically, I've wired the switch to the back of here, which connects to the power on connector on the board. So I think we're about ready to go. What we'll do is we'll turn the power on. There's power on the power supply. We'll get a little bit of heatsink compound, just cheapo stuff that I use in the workshop for this sort of thing. We'll put a bit of heatsink on the chip. We'll now hold our heatsink against it to give at least some attempt at cooling it, and we're going to start it. Here we go. Are we powered up? We're booting. Okay, and it's telling me there's no graphics card. I can feel a little bit. No, there's no real amount of warmth here. Okay, so we know then the PC will boot up, but it won't detect the card. Okay, now what I'm going to do is see whether this GPU is cold, in which case I can get my hand off this bit of heatsink and start measuring a few voltages. Yeah, it's just tepid. There's no real amount of warmth in that. It's vaguely warm, but we can certainly power this on for short times safely. We can at least make some voltage checks to see what's happening. So what I mentioned earlier is there are some voltages on here. I'm just checking this is recording. Yeah, okay, there are some voltages on here that I want to take a measure. Remember, we were talking about all these coils, so each one of these is a power supply, and what I'm going to do is to see if I have any voltages here, just to see is anything running, is it even trying to power up. So the easiest way is to clip I just find a little lead with crocodile clip on, just a crocodile clip lead. If I clip this to the negative and then just connect this to ground somewhere, I'll find, yeah, one of the little bolts that hold the one of the connectors, and probably, so yeah. So I've actually connected to where the VGA connector is, the little hexagonal bolts. So what I need to do now, let's have a look. I've turned the bench lighting off while I was using the microscope, so the camera worked better. So I'm just gonna switch on. I've switched on the lighting so I can actually see a bit better what I'm doing. Okay, so we're going to go power on and we're going to measure some of these, and I'm just going to do it quickly, so I'm not running this GPU for much time without heatsink. Of course, you're going to want to see the voltmeter, so let's see if we can do this in a way that you can actually see what's going on. Okay, there we go. So we're on the volts range. I'm on the first coil. I'm going to power on. Nothing there. Nothing there. This is cold. Nothing there. There's no 12 volts coming in. No, that's the ground side. Yeah, we have 12 volts coming in, obviously. Let's see what we have on these coils here. Yeah, this is the 12 volts coming in, so we have power onto the board. This is still cold. So we now look at the other coils. This is doing nothing, 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 nothing running there at all. There was a little another power supply I mentioned down here, which comes from the PCI connector on the motherboard. So we have a quick look at that one. Okay, that's put 0.67 volts on. There's a small voltage on that one. That's 0.00. That's basically as near as damn it zero. So we can say pretty much that this board has got no power anywhere. So that's the next thing we need to be looking at to understand why. The first thing I would want to check is whether I actually have power coming into the board from the PCI connector, the 5 volt and the 12 volt pins. Because if there's no power coming in here, then this control circuitry cannot power up. It can't start. That's usually, I mean, it's possible there's some sort of supply down here from the 12 volt that supplies the control circuitry. But as you can see, I'm reading nothing on any of these because there's one more here I missed. Oh, okay. That's interesting. This one, you see this one, it looks like it's trying to start. No, it's 12 volts. I just had a bad connection on it. So there's nothing going on around here, and from experience, generally, if there's nothing going on around here, it's because there's no power coming into here. This is like a standby supply. We need this to energize the circuit here before this can work. So that is the next thing I'm going to look at. Plus, is there anything else? No, that's bad. Okay, that's the next thing we look at. So I'll end this recording now. I'm going to look up to see which pins are 5 volt and 12 volt on the PCI connector, because I don't remember. But just by googling PCI connector pin out, you can easily find that out, and we'll come back when we have a bit of information so we can go further.